The medical transport shuttle rattled as it descended through the thick atmosphere of Draxon Prime. Dr. Sarah Mitchell gripped the safety harness, her medical bag secured tightly at her feet. She had treated wounded soldiers in war zones across 3 continents on Earth, but this was different. This time, she was heading to an alien world to treat alien soldiers. Commander Jackson sat across from her, his weathered face unreadable. He had been her superior officer for 5 years, and she trusted his judgment completely, but even he looked tense. "Remember, Mitchell," he said, his voice barely audible over the shuttle's engines, "the Draxil are warriors first, everything else second. They requested a human medic because they've heard about our battlefield surgery techniques. Don't let them intimidate you." Sarah nodded. She had studied everything available about the Draxil. They were reptilian, standing nearly 8 feet tall with armored scales and incredible strength. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, built on military conquest and rigid hierarchy. They had been fighting a border war against an insectoid species called the Zythrak for decades. Humanity had only recently joined the galactic community. Earth's military prowess had caught everyone's attention during the colony defense wars. Now the older species wanted human expertise, particularly in combat medicine. Humans had a reputation for refusing to let their wounded die, for fighting death itself with the same ferocity they fought enemies. "Why me specifically?" Sarah asked. "There are surgeons with more experience." "Because you don't quit," Jackson replied. "I've seen you work for 30 hours straight to save one soldier. The Draxil respect that kind of dedication." He paused. "You're being assigned to General Krynn's personal guard unit. It's a high honor, also high risk." The shuttle touched down with a jarring thud. The rear hatch opened, revealing a military compound that stretched for miles. Draxil soldiers moved in perfect formation across training grounds. Everything was precise, ordered, efficient. A delegation waited on the landing pad. At the center stood the largest Draxil Sarah had ever seen. His scales were dark green, almost black, with scars that told stories of countless battles. He wore armor decorated with symbols she didn't recognize, marks of rank and achievement. "That's General Krynn," Jackson whispered. "Show respect, but don't bow. Draxil see bowing as submission. Stand tall." They walked down the ramp. Sarah forced herself to maintain eye contact with the general, despite every instinct screaming that he was a predator and she was prey. "Commander Jackson," General Krynn's voice was deep, with a resonance that seemed to vibrate through her bones. His galactic standard was perfect, though heavily accented. "Welcome to Draxon Prime. This is your medic?" "Dr. Sarah Mitchell, our finest combat surgeon," Jackson confirmed, Krynn's golden eyes fixed on Sarah. He studied her with the intensity of someone evaluating a weapon's worth. "You are small, even for a human." "Size doesn't matter when you're trying to repair a severed artery," Sarah replied evenly. Several Draxil warriors made sounds that might have been laughter. Krynn's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "You have courage to speak so directly. Good. I have no use for cowards." He gestured to a female Draxil beside him. "This is Captain Vex, my second in command. She will show you to your quarters and medical facility." Captain Vex stepped forward. She was slightly smaller than Krynn, but no less intimidating. Her scales were lighter green with orange patterns. "Follow me, human." The medical facility was impressive. Draxil technology was advanced, with equipment that could scan and diagnose injuries in seconds. But Sarah noticed something immediately. Everything was designed for rapid treatment and quick return to combat. There was no long-term care setup, no recovery wards. "Where do soldiers go after initial treatment?" Sarah asked. Vex looked at her strangely. "If they can fight, they return to duty. If they cannot fight, they return to their families or choose honorable death. What about rehabilitation, physical therapy, psychological support?" "We are warriors," Vex said flatly. "We do not need support. We fight, we heal, we fight again. Or we die with honor." Sarah felt cold. This wasn't medicine. This was triage with a cultural death sentence attached. Over the following days, Sarah learned the routines of General Krynn's unit. They trained constantly, pushing their bodies to limits that would break humans. Injuries were common: broken bones, torn muscles, training accidents that would have sent human soldiers to the hospital for weeks. The Draxil treated everything with quick heal injections and genetic accelerators, then returned immediately to training. Sarah watched warriors fight with injuries that should have kept them immobilized. Their pain tolerance was incredible, but it wasn't healthy. She began treating the soldiers and quickly earned a reputation. Where Draxil medics would inject and release, Sarah insisted on proper wound care, on checking for complications, on explaining what she was doing and why. The warriors found it strange at first. Then they began to appreciate it. Sarah treated them not as broken weapons to be quickly repaired, but as people deserving care and dignity. General Krynn observed from a distance, saying nothing. The emergency came 3 weeks into her assignment. An explosion during live fire training. 4 soldiers down, 1 critically injured. Sarah was in the medical facility when they brought the wounded in. The first 3 had burns and shrapnel wounds, serious but treatable. The 4th was a young warrior named Zythrak, barely into adulthood. His chest armor had been breached. Internal bleeding, organ damage, shock setting in. The Draxil medic, a veteran named Zythrak, examined Zythrak quickly. Wounds are fatal. We should give him the mercy injection. Let him die with honor. No, Sarah said immediately, moving to Zythrak's side. He can be saved. The damage is too extensive. He will not fight again even if he survives. Better a warrior's death than a cripple's life. Sarah felt anger flare hot in her chest. Get out of my way. Zythrak's eyes widened. No one spoke to Draxil medics that way, but something in Sarah's voice made him step back. She worked with focused intensity. Her hands moved with practiced precision, using a combination of human surgical techniques and Draxil medical technology. The key was stopping the internal bleeding before the blood loss became fatal. Hours passed. Other medics came to watch, then warriors, then officers. Word spread through the compound. The human medic was fighting death itself for a soldier everyone else had written off. Captain Vex appeared at some point. Dr. Mitchell, the general wants a status report. Tell him I'm busy saving a life, Sarah said without looking up. More time passed. Sarah's hands ached. Her eyes burned from the surgical magnifiers. But Zythrak's vital signs were stabilizing. The bleeding was stopped. Organs were repaired. He would survive. She finally stepped back, stripping off her bloody surgical gloves. Zythrak lay unconscious, but breathing steadily on the table. Around her, 24 Draxil watched in complete silence. He will live, Sarah announced. Full recovery expected in 6 weeks with proper rehabilitation. Zythrak stepped forward, his expression unreadable. You did what should not be possible. How? By refusing to give up, Sarah said simply. That's what human doctors do. We fight for every life, every time. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the watching Draxil began making a sound. A deep, rhythmic rumble that came from their chests. Sarah didn't know what it meant until Captain Vex explained. They're showing respect. What you did here, this dedication to preserving life at all costs, this is something we've forgotten. Vex's voice was softer than Sarah had ever heard it. We will learn from you, Dr. Mitchell. That evening, Sarah was summoned to General Krynn's command center. She found him alone, studying tactical displays that showed troop movements and battle plans. Dr. Mitchell, he said without turning, you defied my senior medic today. I saved a life today, Sarah corrected. If that's defiance, then yes, I'm guilty. Krynn turned to face her. His expression was intense. Zythrak is a skilled warrior, one of my best scouts, but even if he recovers, he may not regain full combat capability. You've condemned him to a life without honor. I've given him a life to live however he chooses, Sarah replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Maybe he'll fight again. Maybe he'll teach other scouts. Maybe he'll do something completely different. But those are his choices to make, not ours to take away. This is not the Draxil way. Then, maybe the Draxil way needs to change. The words hung in the air. Sarah realized she'd gone too far. You didn't tell an alien general that his entire culture was wrong, not if you wanted to live. But Krynn didn't explode in rage. Instead, he studied her with those penetrating golden eyes. You believe your human methods are superior to traditions that have sustained my people for millennia? I believe every life has value, Sarah said carefully. I believe that warriors who survive should be given the chance to heal fully, not just be patched up and sent back to die. I believe medicine should serve the patient, not just the military. Krynn was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised her. He laughed. The sound was deep and genuine. You are fearless, or foolish, perhaps both. He moved closer, towering over her. Very well, Dr. Mitchell. I give you authority over all medical decisions for my unit. Any warrior you say needs rest will rest. Any treatment you recommend will be implemented. Let us see if your human methods prove superior. Sarah felt her heart racing. You're serious? I am always serious, but I'm also practical. What you did today was remarkable. If you can bring that level of care to all my warriors, then my unit becomes stronger. Strength is what matters. He turned back to his displays. You are dismissed. As Sarah walked back to her quarters, she realized what had just happened. She had been given complete medical authority over one of the most elite military units in the Draxil Empire. It was an incredible opportunity. It was also terrifying. The next morning, Sarah implemented changes. She established proper recovery protocols. She set up a rehabilitation area. She created treatment plans that focused on long-term health, not just immediate combat readiness. The warriors were skeptical at first. Rest was seen as weakness. But when they saw Zek improving daily, when they felt the difference proper care made in their own recoveries, attitudes began to shift. Sarah worked closely with Captain Vex, who proved to be more open-minded than most Draxil officers. They developed hybrid treatment protocols that combined Draxil medical technology with human therapeutic approaches. Your people have a saying, Vex mentioned during one of their planning sessions. First, do no harm. We never had such a principle. For us, it was always strength and glory above all else. Medicine and warrior culture don't have to be opposed, Sarah explained. Keeping soldiers healthy makes them better fighters. It's practical, not soft. Vex's scales shifted to a warmer tone, which Sarah had learned indicated approval or pleasure. The general sees this. He watches your work constantly. I think you're changing his perspective. Sarah noticed it too. General Krynn often appeared in the medical facility, observing treatments, asking questions. He never interfered, but his presence was always felt. She caught him watching her. Work with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. Interest? Respect? Something else? 4 months into her assignment, the situation changed dramatically. The Zythrak launched a major offensive. General Krynn's unit was deployed to the front lines. Sarah went with them. The battlefield was chaos. The Zythrak were insectoid creatures that fought in massive swarms. They had numbers and ferocity. The Draxil had technology and discipline. The fighting was brutal. Sarah set up a field hospital behind the front lines. Wounded warriors flooded in constantly. She worked without stopping, moving from patient to patient, making impossible decisions about who needed immediate attention, who could wait, who was beyond saving. But Sarah refused to accept beyond saving easily. Time and again, she fought for soldiers that Draxil medics would have given up on. Her human stubbornness became legendary. On the third day of battle, General Krynn himself was brought in. An explosion had caught him without his shield. His right arm was badly burned, armor melted into scales and flesh. Several ribs were broken. He was conscious but in obvious pain. General, Sarah said, immediately assessing his injuries, I need to get you to the main medical facility. This requires surgery. No, Krynn said through gritted teeth. My unit is engaged. I return to command. You're injured. You need treatment. I am Draxil. I am a general. I do not leave my warriors while battle continues. Sarah felt frustration surge. You're also my patient, and I'm not letting you die because you're too stubborn to accept proper medical care. They locked eyes. Around them, the field hospital had gone silent. No one spoke to General Krynn that way, especially not a human, especially not a female. You dare give me orders? Krynn's voice was dangerously quiet. You gave me medical authority, Sarah shot back. That means when it comes to health and injuries, I give the orders. You're staying here until I've treated those wounds properly. For a moment, Sarah thought he might strike her. His uninjured hand clenched into a fist. His scales darkened with what she had learned was anger. Then Captain Vex spoke from nearby, her voice carrying across the hospital. "The human is correct, General. You appointed her chief medical officer. By our own laws, her authority in medical matters supersedes all others." Krynn's gaze shifted to Vex, then back to Sarah. Something like respect flickered in his golden eyes. "Very well, Doctor. Do what you must, but make it quick." Sarah worked efficiently, cleaning the burns, removing damaged tissue, using Draxil regenerative technology combined with human surgical precision. Krynn never made a sound, though she knew the pain must have been excruciating. "Your pain tolerance is remarkable," she commented, focusing on repairing damaged scales. "Pain is information," Krynn replied. "It tells me what is damaged, but it does not control me." That's a warrior's perspective. A doctor sees pain differently. It's something to be managed so healing can occur. "Two sides of the same coin," Krynn observed. "You fight death as I fight enemies, with complete dedication and refusal to accept defeat." Sarah paused, meeting his eyes. "I suppose that's accurate." "It is why I respect you, Dr. Mitchell." The admission seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her. "You are a warrior in your own way. You simply fight a different battle." The treatment took 2 hours. When Sarah finished, Krynn's arm was bandaged and his ribs were wrapped. He would heal, though it would take time. 3 days of rest minimum, Sarah ordered. "No combat, no command from the front lines. You can coordinate from here, but you're not going back out there until I clear you." "Impossible. My warriors need to see me leading." "Your warriors need their general alive and functional, not dead from preventable complications." Sarah crossed her arms. 3 days. That's my medical order." They stared at each other. Finally, Krynn inclined his head slightly. 3 days. But I remain here, coordinating operations." "Acceptable," Sarah agreed. What she didn't expect was that Krynn would use those 3 days to essentially live in her field hospital. He set up a command post in the corner, directing his unit remotely while simultaneously observing every treatment Sarah performed. He asked endless questions. Why did she make certain decisions? What was her reasoning for specific treatments? How did human medicine differ from Draxil approaches? Sarah found herself explaining not just medical techniques, but the philosophy behind human healthcare, the Hippocratic Oath, the concept of patient dignity, the importance of holistic care that addressed both physical and psychological wounds. "Your people see medicine as art and science combined," Krynn observed on the second day. "We see it as merely a tool to maintain combat readiness. Your way produces better results." "Different cultures, different approaches," Sarah said diplomatically. "No," Krynn said firmly. "Your way is superior. I see it in the recovery rates, in the morale of treated warriors, in the gratitude they show. You've taught us something valuable, Dr. Mitchell." On the third day, as Krynn prepared to return to active command, a massive Zythrak assault hit their position. The bugs came in waves, overwhelming the defensive lines. The field hospital suddenly found itself on the front line. "Evacuate!" Captain Vex shouted. "Fall back to secondary positions." But Sarah had 20 patients who couldn't be moved, warriors with severe injuries who would die if transported. She made her decision instantly. "I'm staying," she announced. "Someone needs to protect the wounded." "You are not a soldier," Vex protested. "No, but I'm still not abandoning my patients." Sarah grabbed a plasma rifle from the weapons rack. She had basic combat training like all military personnel. "Help me set up a Taro-8 perimeter!" General Krynn appeared beside her, his arm still bandaged but his expression fierce. "The doctor is correct. We hold this position. Any warrior who can fight form defensive line, protect the wounded." What followed was the most terrifying hour of Sarah's life. The Zythrak came in chittering masses. Draxil warriors fought with desperate courage. Sarah found herself firing a weapon she barely knew how to use, hitting insects through sheer determination rather than skill. A Zythrak broke through the line, charging directly at Sarah. She fired but missed. The creature's mandibles opened wide, about to tear her apart. General Krynn intercepted it. Despite his injuries, he moved with blinding speed. His clawed hand tore through the Zythrak's chitinous armor. His blade found vital organs. The creature fell dead. He turned to Sarah, breathing hard. "Your shooting needs work." I'm a doctor, not a soldier, Sarah replied, trying to stop her hands from shaking. Today you are both. They held the position. Reinforcements arrived. The Zythrak were driven back. When the fighting finally ended, Sarah collapsed against a medical gurney, exhausted in ways she had never experienced. Krynn sat beside her, his posture showing exhaustion that matched her own. You should have evacuated. So should you. Your 3 days weren't up. He made that rumbling sound that was Draxil laughter. We are both stubborn fools, it seems. Stubborn, yes, fools. Sarah smiled tiredly. I saved all my patients. You held the position. I'd call that successful stubbornness. Krynn looked at her for a long moment. You are extraordinary, Dr. Mitchell. In all my years of command, I have never met anyone quite like you. Something in his tone made Sarah's heart beat faster. There was more than professional respect in his voice, something warmer, more personal. Before she could respond, Captain Vex approached. General, the Council is requesting your presence via comlink. They want a full battle report. Krynn stood, reluctance clear in his movement. We will speak more later, Doctor. The battle marked a turning point. Sarah's dedication to protecting her patients, even to the point of fighting personally, became legendary among the Draxil. Soldiers began requesting assignment to General Krynn's unit, specifically because of the human doctor who would never abandon them. But something else had changed too. Sarah found herself thinking about General Krynn more than was strictly professional. The way he had defended her without hesitation, the respect in his voice when he called her extraordinary, the quiet moments they had shared in the field hospital. It was absurd. He was an alien, a warrior from a culture completely different from her own. The gulf between them seemed impossible to cross, yet she couldn't deny what she was feeling. Several weeks later, after the front lines had stabilized, Sarah was called to General Krynn's private quarters. She had never been there before. The space was surprisingly austere. Weapons on the walls, tactical maps, very little personal decoration. Krynn stood at the window, looking out over the military compound. He turned as she entered. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for coming. You requested my presence, General. Is something wrong? No, I wanted to speak with you privately. He gestured to a sitting area. Please. They sat across from each other. Krynn seemed uncharacteristically hesitant. I've been considering your impact on my unit, he began. The changes you have implemented, the care you provide. The results are undeniable. My warriors are healthier, stronger, more confident. Our combat effectiveness has increased by 23%. I'm glad the new protocols are working, Sarah said, wondering where this was going. It is more than protocols. It is you personally, your dedication, your refusal to accept defeat, your willingness to fight for every life. Krynn's golden eyes fixed on hers. You have changed how I see medicine, how I see leadership, how I see what it means to truly care for those under my command. Sarah felt her breath catch. General. Krynn, he interrupted. When we are alone, please call me Krynn. Krynn, she amended. I was just doing my job. No, you went far beyond your job. You fought beside us. You risked your life for my warriors. You challenged me directly, repeatedly, because you believed it was right. He leaned forward. You have earned my deepest respect, but more than that, you have earned something else. What? My affection. The admission hung in the air. I do not know how this happened. You are human, so different from my people. Yet I find myself drawn to you in ways I cannot explain. Your strength, your compassion, your fierce determination, these qualities speak to something deep within me. Sarah's heart raced. I've felt it too, she admitted quietly. I tried to ignore it, tell myself it was just professional respect. But it's more than that. Krynn stood, moving to look out the window again. This is complicated. My people have strict traditions about relationships, about family bloodlines and genetic compatibility. A relationship between us would be seen as strange at best, scandalous at worst. Is it even possible? Sarah asked. Biologically, I mean. I do not know. Such pairings have never occurred. He turned back to her. But I find I do not care about possibility or scandal or tradition. I care about you, Sarah Mitchell, and I want to explore what that means. Sarah stood, moving to stand beside him. This could destroy both our careers. The Draxil command might see it as weakness, Earth's military could view it as fraternization. Are you saying you want to ignore this? No, Sarah said firmly. I'm saying we need to be realistic about the challenges, but I also believe some things are worth fighting for. She reached out, placing her small hand on his larger, scaled one. I've spent my career fighting death. Maybe it's time I fight for life, for connection, for something beyond duty. Krynn looked down at their hands, his expression wonder-filled. Your skin is so soft, so warm. It is strange, yet pleasant. Your scales are harder than I expected, but not unpleasant. Sarah smiled. We're quite a pair. Yes, Krynn agreed, his voice warm. We are. They stood there together as evening fell over Draxon Prime, two beings from different worlds who had found something unexpected in each other. The galaxy would have opinions, commands would have concerns, cultures would clash. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The following months were both wonderful and difficult. Sarah and Krynn kept their relationship private at first, but on a military base, nothing stayed secret for long. Rumors spread quickly through the compound. Captain Vex was the first to confront Sarah directly. She found the doctor in the medical facility late one evening, organizing supplies. The warriors are talking, Vex said without preamble. They say the general favors you beyond professional regard. Sarah stopped her work, meeting Vex's gaze steadily. And what do you think? I think General Krynn is the finest commander I have ever served under. I think he has become more effective, more thoughtful, more considerate of his warriors since you arrived. Vex's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. I also think he looks at you the way a warrior looks at something precious worth protecting. Does that bother you? Sarah asked carefully. Bother me? No. Vex moved closer. It concerns me for both of you. Draxil society has rigid expectations. The general is from an ancient bloodline. His family will expect him to bond with a high-ranking Draxil female to produce offspring that continue his genetic legacy. A relationship with a human disrupts those expectations. I know, Sarah said quietly. We've talked about it. And we've decided that some things matter more than expectations. Sarah returned to her organizing, her hands needing something to do. I'm not naive, Vex. I know this will be difficult, but I've never been good at taking the easy path. Vex made that rumbling laugh sound. No, you are not. Perhaps that is why the general admires you so greatly. She paused. For what it matters, you have my support, both of you. You have made this unit stronger. You have made the general happier than I have seen him in years. That is worth protecting. Thank you, Sarah said genuinely. That means more than you know. The real test came when Krynn's family arrived on Draxon Prime. His mother, matriarch Scylla, was an imposing figure even among Draxil. She was larger than Krynn, her scales a deep purple-black, covered in scars that spoke of a warrior's life. She carried herself with absolute authority. She demanded a private meeting with Krynn. Sarah waited nervously in her quarters, trying to focus on medical journals but unable to concentrate. When Krynn finally came to see her, his expression was troubled. She knows, he said simply. She demanded I explain my relationship with a human. What did you tell her? The truth, that you are remarkable, that you have changed me for the better, that I care for you deeply and have no intention of ending our relationship. Krynn sat heavily. She did not take it well. I'm sorry, Sarah said, moving to sit beside him. My mother believes that family legacy is everything. She's already selected 3 suitable Draxil females for me to consider bonding with, high-ranking warriors from respected bloodlines. His voice was bitter. She sees you as a distraction, a phase, something temporary that I will outgrow. Sarah felt a chill. And what do you see me as? Krynn took her hand gently. As the most important person in my life, as someone I cannot imagine my future without. He met her eyes. But I will not lie to you, Sarah. This will cause significant problems. My family has political influence. They can make life difficult for both of us. We could end it, Sarah suggested, though the words felt like swallowing broken glass. Make things easier for you. Is that what you want? No, but I don't want to destroy your relationship with your family either. Krynn was quiet for a moment. Among Draxil, there is a concept called honor of choice. It means that sometimes the most honorable path is to follow your own conviction, even when it contradicts tradition. My mother taught me that principle when I was young. He smiled slightly. She may not appreciate me applying it to this situation, but the lesson came from her. So what do? We continue. We face the challenges together. We prove that this relationship has value. Krynn stood, pulling Sarah up with him. And we start by attending the formal dinner my mother has arranged for tomorrow evening. She wants to meet you officially. Sarah's stomach dropped. That sounds terrifying. It will be, Krynn agreed. But you have faced Zythrak attacks. You have challenged me in front of my entire unit. You can handle one dinner with my mother. The formal dinner was held in the compound's main hall. Sarah wore her dress uniform, every detail perfect. She had never been more nervous in her life, including during actual combat. Matriarch Scylla sat at the head of the table, flanked by other members of Krynn's extended family. There were 24 Draxil present, all of them watching Sarah with varying degrees of curiosity and hostility. Krynn escorted Sarah to her seat with formal courtesy. The message was clear. She was his choice, and he was standing by it publicly. The meal began. Draxil food was primarily meat-based, heavily spiced. Sarah had learned to tolerate it, though it wasn't her preference. She ate carefully, aware that every movement was being judged. Matriarch Scylla finally spoke, her voice carrying across the table. Dr. Mitchell, I've heard much about you. My son claims you are an exceptional medic. I do my best, Matriarch, Sarah replied carefully. He also claims you have improved the combat effectiveness of his unit significantly. I've implemented some new treatment protocols. The warriors have responded well. Yet you are human. Small, weak, fragile by our standards. Scylla's golden eyes were cold. What could someone like you possibly offer someone like my son? The table fell silent. This was the challenge Sarah had been dreading. Krynn started to speak, but Sarah touched his arm gently, stopping him. This was her battle to fight. You're right that I'm human, Sarah said, meeting Scylla's gaze directly. I'm smaller than Draxil. My physical strength is nothing compared to yours. But strength comes in many forms, Matriarch. I've held your son's warriors together when they were bleeding out. I've fought beside them when positions were overrun. I've spent 30 hours straight in surgery to save lives that your own medics had given up on. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. You ask what I offer your son. I offer complete dedication. I offer a perspective different from his own, which makes him a better commander. I offer partnership where he's used to hierarchy. I offer the same fierce refusal to quit that he shows in battle, applied to building something meaningful together. Scylla's expression didn't change. Pretty words, but words are easy. Actions matter. Then judge me by my actions, Sarah replied. Look at the medical records. Talk to the warriors I've treated. Ask your son if I've made him weaker or stronger. Then decide if a relationship with me is truly so terrible. For a long moment, Scylla stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, the matriarch's scales shifted to a lighter color that Sarah had learned indicated approval. You have courage, Scylla said, and you speak truth rather than telling me what you think I want to hear. These are worthy qualities. She turned to Krynn. She is not what I would have chosen for you, but I see why you chose her. She is a warrior in her own way. Yes, Krynn agreed, his voice proud. She is? The dinner continued with slightly less tension. Other family members asked Sarah questions about Earth, about human culture, about her medical work. She answered honestly, making no attempt to pretend she was something she wasn't. As the evening ended, Matriarch Scylla approached Sarah privately. Understand this, human, the matriarch said quietly. I still have reservations. You and my son come from different worlds with different values. The challenges you will face are significant. She paused. But I raised Krynn to make his own choices and accept the consequences. If he chooses you, I will not stand in his way. I only ask that you treat him with the respect and dedication he deserves. I will, Sarah promised, always. Scylla studied her for a moment longer, then nodded. Good. Because if you hurt him, human doctor or not, you will answer to me. The threat was clear, but Sarah found herself smiling. I wouldn't expect anything less from his mother. The next challenge came from an unexpected direction. Earth's military command heard about the relationship and had concerns of their own. Commander Jackson contacted Sarah via secure communication. "Mitchell, what the hell are you thinking?" Jackson demanded. His face on the screen looked exhausted. "A relationship with an alien commander? Do you understand the complications?" "I understand perfectly, sir," Sarah replied. "I also understand that some things matter more than complications. The brass is worried about divided loyalties. If tensions arise between Earth and the Draxil Empire, where do your allegiances lie?" "My allegiance is to saving lives and to the person I care about. Those things aren't mutually exclusive," Jackson sighed. "I'm not your enemy here, Mitchell. I'm trying to protect you. There are people in command who want to recall you to Earth, end this situation before it becomes a political incident." Sarah felt cold dread. "They can't do that. My assignment isn't complete. They can do whatever they want. You're military, remember?" Jackson leaned closer to the screen. "But I'm going to fight for you. I've seen the reports from Draxon Prime, the improvements you've made, the lives you've saved, the respect you've earned. You're doing good work there, important work. And if you've found someone who makes you happy in the middle of this war, then you deserve to keep that." "Thank you, sir," Sarah said, genuinely moved. "Don't thank me yet. You're going to need to prove that this relationship doesn't compromise your duties. Document everything. Show that your performance is as strong as ever. Give them no ammunition to use against you." Sarah worked harder than ever over the following weeks. She maintained detailed records of every treatment, every outcome, every improvement in unit performance. The data was undeniable. Casualty rates were down, recovery times were faster, and warrior morale was the highest it had been in years. She and Krynn were careful to maintain professional boundaries in public. No displays of affection in front of the troops, no favoritism in medical treatment, no compromising of military protocols. But in private, they built something real. They learned each other's languages, each other's cultures, each other's dreams and fears. Krynn taught Sarah about Draxil history and philosophy. Sarah taught him about human art and music and the concept of mercy as strength rather than weakness. "Your people value compassion," Krynn observed one evening as they sat together in his quarters. "Mine value strength, yet you've shown me these need not be opposed." "Compassion requires strength," Sarah said. "It takes courage to care when caring might hurt. It takes discipline to show mercy when violence would be easier." Krynn's clawed hand traced gently across her face, careful not to scratch. "You are teaching me to be a better leader, a better person. My warriors see it. They fight harder because they know they will be cared for if injured. They trust more because I trust you." "We make each other better," Sarah said simply. "That's what love does." It was the first time either of them had used that word. It hung in the air between them, significant and undeniable. "Love," Krynn repeated slowly. "In Draxil, we have a concept called soul binding. When two warriors become so connected that their fates are intertwined. Is this what you mean?" "Yes," Sarah said. "That's exactly what I mean." The turning point came during a massive Zythrak offensive. The bugs launched their largest assault yet, throwing millions of soldiers at Draxil positions. General Krynn's unit was at the center of the defensive line. The fighting was brutal. Casualties mounted faster than Sarah and her medical team could treat them. She worked for days without sleep, moving from patient to patient, making impossible choices about who lived and who died. On the fourth day, General Krynn was leading a counterattack when he was hit by Zythrak bioweapon. The acid ate through his armor, burning into his chest and left side. His guards brought him back to the field hospital unconscious and barely breathing. Sarah felt her heart stop when she saw him. The damage was catastrophic. The acid had destroyed scales, melted through muscle tissue, and was spreading toward vital organs. "Doctor," one of the Draxil medics said quietly, "the damage is too extensive. We should make him comfortable and allow him to die with honor." "No," Sarah said, her voice deadly calm. "Get me every regenerative treatment we have, prep for emergency surgery, and someone find Captain Vex. The general's going to need someone to command while he's recovering." "Doctor, he cannot recover from this. The bioweapon is designed to be fatal." Sarah looked up, and everyone stepped back from the fury in her eyes. "I didn't ask for your opinion on whether he can survive. I gave you orders. Follow them, now. She worked with focused intensity that bordered on obsession. She couldn't lose him. She wouldn't lose him. Every technique she knew, every skill she had developed, everything she had learned from combining human and Draxil medicine, she poured into saving Krynn's life. Hours blurred together. Other medics assisted, but Sarah led every step. She removed destroyed tissue, neutralized the bioweapon's residual effects, used regenerative treatments to stimulate healing, and performed procedures that had never been attempted before. Captain Vex appeared at some point. Doctor, the battle continues. The Council is asking about command succession if the General dies. Tell them he's not dying, Sarah said without looking up. The damage. I don't care about the damage. I don't care about medical impossibilities. He is not dying. Not today. Not because of this. Sarah's hands never stopped moving. Now either help me or get out. Vex stayed. She held instruments, monitored vital signs, and watched Sarah fight death with the same ferocity Krynn showed in battle. Finally, after 18 hours of continuous surgery, Krynn's vital signs stabilized. The bioweapon was neutralized. The worst of the damage was repaired. He would live. Sarah stepped back, swaying with exhaustion. Vex caught her before she fell. You did it, Vex said with awe in her voice. He should be dead. Every medical protocol said he was dead, but you refused to accept it. That's what love means, Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper, fighting for someone even when it seems hopeless. Krynn woke 3 days later. Sarah was beside his bed, having refused to leave except for absolute necessities. When his golden eyes opened and focused on her, she felt tears streaming down her face. Sarah, he said, his voice rough. Why are you crying? Because you're alive, she managed to say. Because I almost lost you. Because I've never been so terrified in my entire life. His undamaged hand found hers. You saved me. They told me the extent of the damage, the impossibility of survival, but you refused to accept impossibility. I love you, Sarah said. I couldn't let you go. I love you too, Krynn replied. My fierce, stubborn, magnificent human. You fight death itself for those you care about. How could I not love you? The story of what Sarah had done spread rapidly through not just the military compound, but across the entire Draxil Empire. The human doctor who refused to let the great General Krynn die, who fought for 18 hours straight, who achieved the medically impossible through sheer determination and skill. Public opinion began to shift. The relationship that had been seen as scandalous became romantic, the doctor and the general. Two warriors from different worlds who had found each other in the middle of war. Earth's military command sent new orders. Sarah was to be promoted and given authority to train other human medics in her combined techniques. Her methods were too valuable to keep on a single planet, but Sarah's response surprised everyone. She declined the promotion. With respect, sir, she told Commander Jackson via comlink, my place is here, General Krynn's unit, this medical facility, these warriors who trust me. This is where I belong. This is where I can do the most good. Jackson smiled. I thought you might say that. For what it's worth, Mitchell, I'm proud of you. You've represented humanity better than any diplomat could. You've shown that we can bridge differences, that we can form genuine connections across species. That matters more than any military victory. Matriarch Scylla visited again after Krynn's recovery. She found Sarah in the medical facility, organizing supplies as always. Dr. Mitchell, Scylla said, I owe you a debt. You saved my son's life. I was doing my job, Sarah replied. No, you were doing what family does, fighting for someone you love, regardless of the cost. Scylla's scales shifted to warm colors. I was wrong about you. You are exactly what my son needs. Someone who challenges him, supports him, and refuses to let him quit even when circumstances seem hopeless. Does this mean you approve? Sarah asked carefully. It means I recognize that my son chose well. It means you have proven your worth beyond any doubt. Scylla stepped closer. It also means I want to perform a Draxil bonding ceremony between you and Krynn. Make your relationship official in the eyes of our people. Sarah's heart raced. A bonding ceremony? That's like marriage? More than marriage. It is a declaration that your lives are intertwined, that you face the future together as one unit. Scylla's expression softened slightly. If you are willing. Yes, Sarah said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. The bonding ceremony was held 1 month later. It combined Draxil and human traditions, witnessed by warriors from Krynn's unit, Sarah's medical team, and representatives from both their families. Sarah wore traditional human wedding attire, modified to incorporate Draxil design elements. Krynn wore ceremonial armor decorated with both their family symbols. They spoke vows in both languages. They participated in Draxil rituals involving shared combat demonstrations. They exchanged earth wedding rings adapted to fit Krynn's clawed hands. When the ceremony concluded, they were bonded in the eyes of both cultures, husband and wife, partners, a bridge between two civilizations. The celebration that followed was joyous. Warriors danced with human soldiers. Draxil and humans shared food and stories. For one evening, all the differences between species seemed to fade away. Captain Vex approached Sarah during the celebration. I never thought I would see this day. A human and Draxil bonded officially. You are making history, Doctor. We're just two people who found each other, Sarah replied. The history part is accidental. Perhaps. But accidental or not, you have changed things. The alliance between our species is stronger because of what you and the General represent. Other mixed relationships are forming across the military. You have shown it is possible. Sarah looked across the room to where Krynn stood, talking with his mother and some of his senior officers. He caught her eye and smiled, the expression transforming his usually serious face. Worth it, Sarah said softly. Every challenge, every difficulty, every moment of doubt, all worth it. The war with the Zythrak eventually ended, not through massive military victory, but through negotiation. The alliance between humans and Draxil, strengthened by connections like Sarah and Krynn's relationship, presented such a formidable force that the Zythrak agreed to peace terms. Sarah and Krynn remained with his unit, but their roles evolved. Sarah became chief medical officer for the entire Draxil military, implementing her combined treatment protocols across all units. Krynn was promoted to supreme commander, overseeing strategic planning and military training. They built a life together that honored both their cultures. They maintained a residence on Draxon Prime, but traveled regularly to Earth. They advocated for closer human-Draxil cooperation in all areas, not just military. The question of children came up eventually. Medical tests confirmed what they had suspected. Biological children between their species were not possible. The genetic differences were too great. But they adopted. First, a Draxil orphan from a destroyed colony, then a human child from Earth whose parents had died in the colony wars. They raised both children to understand and appreciate both cultures, to see differences as strengths rather than barriers. Years later, Sarah stood in the medical facility she had first entered as a frightened human doctor unsure of her place. Now, it was expanded, modernized, staffed by both human and Draxil medics trained in her combined techniques. Krynn found her there, as he often did. Despite his rank and responsibilities, he made time every day to find his wife, to share a few moments of quiet conversation. Remembering? He asked, understanding immediately. Remembering when I first arrived, Sarah confirmed. Scared, uncertain, convinced I was completely out of my depth. You were out of your depth, Krynn said with amusement. You simply refused to let that stop you. I had a good teacher, a general who showed me that strength and compassion aren't opposed, that caring for others makes warriors fight harder, not weaker. Krynn pulled her close, his embrace gentle despite his size and strength. We taught each other. That is what partners do. They stood together, looking out over the compound, where human and Draxil soldiers trained side by side, where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where a human doctor and an alien general had proven that love could bridge any gap. The galaxy would continue to turn. Wars would come and go, civilizations would rise and fall. But what Sarah and Krynn had built together, the protocols, the relationships, the proof that connection was possible, that would endure. One oath to save a life had changed everything. One stubborn refusal to give up had forged an alliance stronger than any treaty. One love had bridged two worlds, and it all started with a human medic who refused to let anyone die on her watch, including her own heart.